All right, a carnivore diet gave me kidney disease, or perhaps, right? So I've seen this several times. People that are excited. They go on. They've heard all the hype about carnivore diets, and they go on it. And many times they lose a lot of weight. They feel great, and then they get their labs back, and they go to their doctor, and their doctor says, "You know what? We think your kidneys are having trouble here. You need to stop this crazy diet. You need to stop eating as much protein." And, they do. And, they often go back to where they were before. But let's delve into this a little more because it's an important concept that even many physicians fail to recognize this. And so when we look at the kidney, the kidney is made up of a bunch of functional units called the nephrons. So you guys have heard of like nephritis or nephrotic syndrome, perhaps. That refers to of the kidney. And the nephron is composed of something called a glomerulus, which is kind of the main filtration. It's like a cluster of sort of really tightly coiled capillaries and nerve endings that where the blood is passed through and then filtered out, and then the tubules where the rest of the action in the kidney occurs. And so we have this measurement called the glomerular filtration rate, also known as the GFR, and more specifically on most labs it's called the eGFR, or estimated GFR. I know this gets a little technical, but stay with me guys on this. And so typically, how do we calculate or how do we estimate how well our kidneys are functioning or how well they're filtering, right? And so traditionally, since I guess 1886 is when this compound was first sort of isolated, there's something called creatinine as opposed to creatine, which is the supplement that people take to help with their muscles. But anyway, creatinine is something that's measured in the blood. It's been measured for well over 100 years. And you can estimate how much your kidneys are filtering based on that. And that generally works for most people. And when your creatinine goes up, it usually is often associated, or can be associated with kidney function going down and your GFR becoming lower and lower and lower. So how well your kidneys are filtering. And that GFR, like I said, is an estimate based on this creatinine level. And the problem with that estimate is there are things that can affect the creatinine which aren't necessarily pathological. So your creatinine can go up. So there are people with higher creatinine that don't have any kidney disease. And I'll use myself as a perfect example. And how do I know that? Because I've tested it multiple times, and I've tested with confirmatory type testing to show that in my case, elevated creatinine is not associated with any level of kidney dysfunction. Let me explain that a little further. So what can make your creatinine go up? Well, kidney failure, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely it does. But what else can make your creatinine go up? Well, number one is just having a lot of muscle mass. Being a muscular person, in a lot of cases, your creatinine will go up. Now, you contrast to like a little old lady that's frail and has very little muscle, they have very, very low creatinine in many cases. But if you're a big guy with a lot of muscle, or even a big woman with a lot of muscle, your creatinine might be higher than what would otherwise be normally expected, right? If you work out hard, you're constantly exercising, well, guess what? You have a high turnover of protein in the body, and therefore it can raise your creatinine. And finally, if you eat a lot of protein, and I certainly do that. If you eat a lot of protein, your creatinine will be up. None of those reasons are predictive for kidney dysfunction, right? I know we hear a lot of this where you need to lower your protein. And what happens is, by lowering your protein, your creatinine will fall. By lowering your protein, if your kidneys are damaged and spilling protein, you will spill less protein. But that's not what's causing the damage here. So what do you do if you go on a diet, a carnivore diet, particularly you get healthier? I mean, man, everything feels better. I feel great. My joints stop hurting. I lost 50 pounds. My mood is great. My libido is great. My digestion's great. Everything feels better, but my creatinine has gone up. Well, one thing you should do, and your doctor may not know this, is get another test called a cystatin C. Cystatin C is also a way to check GFR, but it is not dependent upon muscle mass or protein intake or how much you exercise. It's completely independent in that. And many people argue it's a better test, though it's not as commonly done. It's not as most doctors just don't, many of them haven't even heard of it, quite honestly. But it is well documented in the literature to be a alternative way to measure GFR. And some people may say in a superior way because it is not dependent upon, these other variables that I talked about. So again, that's something that if you're a clinician, you should know that. Learn about the cystatin C test. It's most labs will perform it, but it is, most nephrologists are familiar with this, I would imagine, but a lot of general practitioners and just lay people never heard of it, right? So anyway, again, protein does not damage kidneys. Okay, that's a misconception that has been shown to be false. There's associational data, just like anything. And associational data is fraught with problems, right? There are so many ways that those things can be wrong. This nice study from 2018, meta-analysis looking at higher versus lower protein diet shows no evidence of kidney disease. Yeah, and so my friend David Unwin, who is a researcher and physician in the UK, has demonstrated with lots of patients with diabetes and chronic kidney disease that by going on a higher protein, lower carbohydrate diet, that they're actually reversing renal disease, right? So that's pretty cool to see. And I've seen that myself clinically, many patients with, stage 1, stage 2, sometimes stage 3 renal disease, see that reverse and get better. So it is not meat, it is not protein per se that is causing disease. There are a number of studies, like I said, that I mentioned that sort of refute that. This is unfortunately a disproven hypothesis that many people still believe. Even many physicians don't understand this. So if you want a physician that actually gets this stuff, here you go, Rivera.com. We've got many people on the waiting list. We'll start seeing patients very shortly, certainly by the beginning of next year, and hopefully we can start to make a difference here. And we will be expanding, hiring more clinicians, as needed, and certainly, so we're excited about that. So anyway, you might have to know more than your physician when it comes to just some of these basic tests that, like I said, many physicians aren't aware of. Anyway, you guys take care. We'll see you soon. I'm excited. I've got a number of things going on today. One is one in particular, a research meeting. So we're trying to, like I said, get more research funded. So we're going to put the funding guys with the researchers together and hopefully come out with a plan for a study. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.